Title: The Infinite Fractal Mind Hypothesis as Scientific and Philosophical Exploration. Abstract: The concept of consciousness has long puzzled philosophers, scientists, and spiritual thinkers alike. Among the many frameworks proposed to explain consciousness, the infinite fractal mind hypothesis posits that consciousness is not linear or confined to a singular organism but rather fractal and infinite in nature. This essay delves into a range of evidence, from the hard sciences like mathematics, neuroscience, and physics to softer sciences like psychology and philosophy, to argue that consciousness may indeed exhibit fractal characteristics. Additionally, this essay incorporates scriptural references to highlight connections between ancient wisdom and modern scientific thought, examining how these patterns may provide a new lens for understanding consciousness as both infinite and universally interconnected. Introduction: The fractal nature of consciousness. Consciousness has traditionally been explored through either a reductionist or hierarchical lens, wherein individual units, such as neurons or cells, are seen as subcomponents of a larger, more complex system. However, this model falls short when explaining the non-local and interconnected qualities of consciousness, qualities that suggest a deeper, more complex structure. In contrast, the infinite fractal mind hypothesis presents consciousness as fundamentally fractal in nature, with each individual consciousness being a microcosm of the whole, yet complete in itself. Fractals, as mathematical structures, are defined by self-similarity at different scales. When applied to consciousness, this concept suggests that just as a fractal pattern repeats infinitely at different levels of magnification, so too does consciousness, infinitely recursive and interrelated. The evidence supporting this hypothesis ranges from neuroscientific observations to principles in quantum mechanics and mathematics, suggesting that consciousness is not merely the sum of its parts but rather an interconnected, self-replicating whole. Fractals in mathematics and nature, a model for consciousness. Fractals are most commonly understood as mathematical structures that exhibit infinite complexity, with their overall form remaining self-similar at various scales. This recursive structure is seen in nature, from the branching of trees to the structure of galaxies. In the human body, fractal-like structures appear in biological systems such as the circulatory, respiratory, and nervous systems. In mathematics, the Mandelbrot set provides a quintessential example of fractals. No matter how deeply one zooms into the set, the same pattern reappears, signifying that the structure is recursive and infinite. When viewed through this lens, consciousness could be understood as a fractal phenomenon, wherein each individual mind reflects the larger, universal consciousness in its entirety, yet remains self-contained. From a scientific standpoint, fractals have been shown to govern many natural processes. For instance, the branching patterns of neurons, the structure of the brain's neural networks, and even the electrical activity of the heart exhibit fractal-like properties. Such patterns of recursion and self-similarity in the physical structures that support consciousness lend credence to the notion that consciousness itself may be a fractal. Neuroscientific evidence: the brain and fractality. Neuroscience provides compelling insights into the fractal nature of consciousness. The human brain, with its vast network of neurons, operates on principles that mirror fractal geometry. The brain's neural architecture is composed of intricate networks that exhibit self-similarity. The branching of axons and dendrites follows fractal patterns, as does the organization of neural circuits. The complexity of neural connections increases exponentially with each level of magnification, just as fractals do. Electroencephalogram, EEG, studies reveal that brain waves exhibit fractal patterns as well. The electrical signals associated with various states of consciousness, such as wakefulness, meditation, or sleep, follow patterns that are self-similar across multiple scales of time. This fractal organization of brain activity suggests that consciousness itself may operate on fractal principles, wherein the micro-level activities of neurons mirror larger-scale processes of thought, awareness, and self-reflection. Moreover, Recent research into the default mode network, DMN, a network of interacting brain regions associated with self-referential thought, indicates that the DMN also exhibits fractal-like dynamics. When the DMN is active, it engages in patterns of spontaneous thought and introspection that are not localized to any specific brain region but rather spread across the entire brain in a recursive, fractal manner. This global patterning suggests that consciousness is a distributed, self-organizing system, rather than being confined to specific neural hubs. Quantum mechanics and consciousness, non-locality and interconnectivity. In the realm of quantum mechanics, the non-local behavior of particles provides further support for the fractal nature of consciousness. Quantum entanglement, where particles remain interconnected regardless of distance, mirrors the non-local, interconnected properties often ascribed to consciousness. Just as entangled particles influence each other across vast distances, consciousness may also exhibit similar non-local characteristics, with each mind acting as a part of a larger, interconnected whole. Theories such as the holographic principle in quantum physics suggest that the universe itself may function as a fractal hologram, wherein every part contains information about the whole. Applied to consciousness, this principle implies that individual minds are not isolated entities but are instead fractal projections of a universal consciousness, each containing the full essence of the whole. The notion that consciousness could be a fundamental feature of the universe similar to space and time has gained traction in scientific discourse. This view aligns with the fractal model, suggesting that just as space and time can be infinitely subdivided, so too can consciousness. Each slice of consciousness, whether at the level of the individual or the collective, retains the self-similarity and recursion inherent in fractals. Psychological and philosophical perspectives, the mind is a fractal construct. From a psychological and philosophical perspective, the fractal nature of consciousness is reflected in the mind's ability to self-organize and replicate patterns of thought across different scales of experience. Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious, for instance, posits that individual consciousness is a reflection of deeper, universal patterns that recur across human experience. These archetypes, like fractals, manifest in the minds of individuals yet a part of a larger, shared consciousness that spans cultures and epochs. Philosophers such as Gottfried Leibniz, with his theory of monads, propose that each individual mind is a self-contained reflection of the entire universe. This idea resonates with the fractal model of consciousness, wherein each mind, like a fractal, contains within it the structure of the whole. Similarly, contemporary philosophers like David Chalmers have speculated that consciousness may be a fundamental aspect of reality, akin to the fractal patterns seen throughout nature. The infinite nature of consciousness, expanding the fractal hypothesis. While fractals are defined by their self-similarity and recursion, they are also infinite. No matter how deeply one zooms into a fractal, new levels of complexity emerge. This infinite quality is key to the infinite fractal mind hypothesis, which posits that consciousness, too, is boundless. Each individual mind, like a fractal, contains infinite layers of complexity and connection to the whole, suggesting that consciousness is not limited by the physical boundaries of the brain or body. The infinite nature of consciousness can also be linked to spiritual and scriptural concepts. In Ecclesiastes 7:14, for example, we are reminded of the cyclical nature of existence. In the day of prosperity be joyful, and in the day of adversity consider, Elohim has made the one as well as the other. This scripture mirrors the fractal principle of endless recursion, where both good and adversity are part of a larger, unified whole. In the same way, individual experiences of consciousness, joy, suffering, and everything in between are part of an infinite, fractal consciousness that encompasses all of existence. Moreover, Zephaniah 3:8-9 speaks to the transformative power of divine consciousness, which could be seen as the fractal essence of life itself. For then I will change the speech of the peoples to a pure speech, that all of them may call upon the name of Jehovah and serve him with one accord. Here, the fractal quality of transformation is evident, as individual minds are unified in a larger, divine consciousness, with each part being equal to the whole, yet distinct. Conclusion: toward a unified theory of consciousness. The evidence from both hard and soft sciences suggests that consciousness may indeed be fractal and infinite in nature. From the self-similar patterns in neural architecture and brain activity to the non-local behaviors observed in quantum mechanics, consciousness appears to operate according to principles of recursion and interconnectedness. Furthermore, psychological and philosophical frameworks support the idea that individual minds are reflections of a universal consciousness, much like fractals reflect larger patterns within smaller parts. By considering consciousness through the lens of fractals, we gain a deeper understanding of its infinite, interconnected nature. Each individual mind, far from being isolated, is a microcosm of the whole, infinitely recursive and boundlessly interconnected with the greater universe. This model not only aligns with modern scientific findings but also resonates with ancient spiritual wisdom, offering a new perspective on the profound complexity and unity of consciousness. In this sense, consciousness is not simply a phenomenon confined to the brain or body but an infinite fractal of existence itself, a reflection of the divine essence that permeates all things. As the scriptures remind us, I am that I am, Exodus 3:14, pointing to the infinite and fractal nature of being. Through this lens, the infinite fractal mind hypothesis provides a framework for understanding consciousness as a universal, infinite, and self-similar phenomenon, deeply rooted in both science and spirituality.